Now, one of the things that you're going to realize that I tried to do when it comes to this 5-minute setup is it's simplifying. In other words, this is probably about as mechanical a setup as I've got, and it's much more akin to swing trading. In fact, this is just really short-term intraday swing trading. You know, I spent 10 minutes telling you that we're not day trading really. What this is short-term intraday swing trading, because it's really dependent upon that 5-minute chart having a trend. That's number one. If I don't have a trend on a 5-minute chart, nothing else matters, because this is about following a trend on that short-term time frame. Okay? So, again, at part one, we're going to start off with the chart setups, the key moving averages, trend confirmation, and then the entry trigger. Okay? So, what you see here is essentially 1/2 of one screen of my IBFX4 platform. And what I've got here is the data window, of course, the market watch, so I can have all the pairs that I look at right here, handy. This chart is just a generic chart with the MACD traditional and my wave and the automated pattern recognition software, the PRS, for chart patterns. This is not really needed necessarily. I might have it to take a look at some larger term trends and directions, but it's not really needed for the 5 minutes. So this black chart here, while it's there, I could just as easily remove it. Okay? It doesn't necessarily need to be here, but again, it's 1/2 of my screen, so it just happens to be part of what you're looking at. The key charts, and this is a very compact setup. The key charts is this kind of bluish shaded chart here in the upper right hand corner, this green chart, and this red chart. That's the core of what we're doing. Remember, this is a 5-minute setup. We do not have the luxury of time here. I don't have the luxury of complicated manual analysis. I've got to get things done pretty quick, and I've got to have confidence in the speed and the analysis that I'm making. So I'm going to use, as often as possible, kind of mechanical tools, moving averages, psychological levels, pivots, things that don't have to be manually calculated. They just are on the chart. My only job then is to simply read what they're telling me. Okay? That's really at the core philosophy of what we're doing here. 5-minute charts, they're going to cycle through trends, cycle through our market cycles, move through our market cycles in a very quick way. So trades will appear and disappear and validate and invalidate. I mean, it's going to happen quickly. Okay? So that brings me to another point, which is do not, I mean, you should not ever chase trades to begin with. But when it comes to a 5-minute chart, 12 new candles every hour, right? And then if you think about it, 24 hours a day, that's 288 candles per day. Do not chase trades. If you miss one, there'll be something else, either later on in that session, maybe another session, maybe the next day. It is not worth chasing a 5-minute trade, because while your risk is going to be generally less, because this is a much more compact setup, you know, basically if you look at how much a 5-minute candle will move from a high to low range, it's much less typically than, say, a 30-minute candle. Not always, but typically. Okay? Market volatility does vary. We know that when economic reports come out, you know, it's a completely different scenario. But generally speaking, if given 5 minutes, the market's going to move. It's going to have less time to move than if it's given 30. Okay? So our setups are smaller. Our risk is smaller. Our reward is smaller. Everything is compact. Okay? So it's not worth chasing a trade. I hope I got that across. So basically, if we are now looking at picking a time in which to do this type of strategy, two things. Again, if at all possible, I'll typically go with my 15, 30, 60, 240 daily. Those are my main time frames. The 5-minute comes, again, you know, when do I choose to go to that 5-minute? Sometimes when I don't have a lot of time. If I know I'm only going to be available in my office for maybe 60 to 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, this is a good setup to watch. If I'm going to be, for example, trying to trade around certain psychology. In other words, if I know that I don't want to be involved in the volatility of an economic hot zone, and by trading a 15 to 30-minute chart, that candle might continue to trade during the economic release, and I don't want to be in it, that 5-minute chart's a very nimble time frame. I can do some trading before, be flat before the economic report, and then if I want to get in after, I can do that. That short time frame gives me that flexibility. And then really the main reason is when I am, again, I mentioned it before, but when I am mistrustful of follow-through in the longer-term time frames, when there's congestion, when there's consolidation on my 15, 30, 60, 240, when prices tend to exhaust at key levels, when I don't get the follow-through, when trends tend to be a little unpredictable on those longer-term time frames, the 5-minute ends up being a great go-to time frame. It ends up being a great short-term slice of psychology that I can take advantage of when there's not a lot of movement on those longer-term time frames. Okay, so it's not necessarily a strategy, but it's a reflection of what I see is happening in the market and how I compensate for that. Okay, so the time frame itself is a choice. It's not something where I sit up and go, I'm going to trade a 5-minute today. Although a lot of times when I teach this to people, they end up loving this time frame so much it ends up being what they do for the most part. Remember, you're not going to catch longer term trends with a 5-minute chart. They're not designed to do that. If you're trying to take advantage of a session-long trend or a day-long trend or a few days or even a week, the 5-minute is the wrong time frame for the job. Because again, all that little subtle movement that will happen within a single 30 or a 60 or definitely a 240-minute chart, that could take you through all sorts of market cycles on the 5-minute. Okay, so remember, understand what its role within the day is. Okay, understand what it's actually reflecting. Short-term slice of psychology. Don't ask a 5-minute chart to help you take advantage of a 4 or 5 hour trend. Heck, it's probably not even going to help you with a 2 or 3 hour trend, or even sometimes a 1 or 1.5 hour, 1 to 1.5 hour trend. Okay, it's a small term slice of psychology. So if you're one of those people who's going to be kicking yourself, and if you're going to start revenge trading because the market really started to move dramatically and that 5 minutes shook you out, keep that in mind. Okay? All right. So one of the things I'm happy about is we have a update available already at the Daily Trading Edge blog. And I had posted this at the blog back at the ibfx.com website. We had posted this update back on, and I'm trying to remember when it was, but I believe we posted this update, which I called Adapting to the Short Term. So short-term day trading the Forex. Let me give you that link right now. So that document basically outlined times and the strategy. So it's a great resource for you. And then either tonight or tomorrow, I'm actually going to be posting another update, which is going to help you with what I call triage, or the trade selection. Because what you're going to find a lot of times is when the Dow and the dollar are moving, and those are key markets that affect what happens in the Forex, the dollar index and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. When they're moving, you're going to find a lot of times you might have 2, 3, 4, 5 or more 5-minute setups getting ready to trigger in very close proximity to one another. They might be all triggering very, very close, and you may, number one, not want to manage multiple trades, or two, not have the wherewithal to do so. So how do you triage, which means sort? How do you select which trade you actually want to go with, which one of the charts? And I have an update that'll be posting tonight or tomorrow that'll discuss that. So between those two, you've got a really good set of articles that will help you as a resource to what we're talking about tonight.